Hey guys, today we're going to be talking all about the magic of words and how it can help you unblock your blocks. I'm Emily Goldthwait. I'm an author and energy healer, and I help people have powerful self-awareness, deep self-compassion, and expanded understanding. Let's start out today by talking a little bit about blocks. Blocks are when there's something you want to do, a path you want to take, maybe a career or even a trip you want to go on or someone you want to talk to. There's something you want to do or progress you want to make in your life, or even healing that you're looking for emotionally, and you just can't seem to get to the goal or make progress towards the goal that you are a yes for. And sometimes you might have an idea of why that is. It could be, a very strong emotional reaction that you feel every time you're trying to go down that path. Sometimes it seems like it's an external source that's coming at you versus something that you're putting out there. But there's something you are trying to achieve or do or obtain, and you are feeling stuck, like you can't make any progress towards it. That's a block. And a lot of times our blocks lay in blind spots where we don't really know what we don't know. And so there's something that we don't understand about ourselves and the way we see something, and that is causing a blind spot block for us that is prohibiting us from reaching our goals and aspirations. There's a quote I saw by Bruce Lee the other day, and I really liked it. It said, "Don't speak negatively about yourself, even as a joke. Your body doesn't know the difference. Words are energy and cast spells. That's why it's called spelling." So with this quote, I love words. I've loved them like my whole life. Ever since I was little, I just was like gathering words everywhere. And there was a song that came out by Tom Chaplin called Great Big Words. It was a kid's song. And he talks about how he was a kid and he just loved all these huge words and he'd use them, and he kind of sounded like a weirdo because he used these big words. That's always been me. I just gather words and then I try to employ them where I can. And in fact, the first book I wrote was way overwritten and had all these crazy words because I was like, hey, now I can finally use that fancy word that I know. And people read it for me, like test read it for me, and they were like, this is ridiculous and sounds very weird because you're using very big, strange words instead of just using like the word we all know. And so that really taught me and got me thinking about how different words mean things to different people. And if there's no emotional or even mental meaning assigned to that word, it doesn't have any power to impact the person who's hearing it or using it. So all of my big words that I was like dumping into this book, people didn't resonate with it because it wasn't a word that meant anything to them, versus like the common word that might have been used for the same thing might have had a bit more of an impact because it was a word they were familiar with and they had an ascribed definition for it. But one thing that I discovered was that words mean different things to different people. And this was a little bit of a head trip for me when I first discovered it, because I assumed, dictionary definition is what everyone goes by with that word. But actually, that isn't the case. When we have an experience or an interaction with something, the words we use to describe it and name it have an emotional meaning for us. So that's why sometimes when you use a word, somebody else might react in a way that seems very strange to you, to your use of that word, but it's because to them it has a different meaning than it does to you. And so even though we might all agree on the dictionary definition, the emotional definition inside means something completely different to different people. So there was a book I read years ago. It was a children's book called Aragon. And in this book, there's magic. And the magic is actually a language. And everything has its regular common name that people use, and then it has its what they call a true name. And when you know the true name of something, you have power over it. And that is what gives you the magic, is knowing its true name. Now, the true name in the book has to do with the essence of the thing. And so once you understand the essence of something, even if it didn't previously have a name to you, you can actually name it. And okay, spoiler alert, if you want to read it and you haven't, the end of the series, plug your ears because I'm going to spoil it a little bit here. At the end of the series, you find out that when a person changes and shifts and adjusts their essence, what was priorly their name is no longer their true name, and their true name shifts, and therefore the magic that was attached to that first name is broken, and now the magic is with their new name because it's their new self, their new essence. So, okay, you can unplug your ears now. So this was really, really impactful to me, even before I got to that final book where you learn all the cool stuff. Just the fact that something's true name and its essence held the magic to control it. So when I'm doing energy work or when I am in meditation trying to get answers and things like that, a lot of times my brain is very, very pictorial. Every once in a while I'll just like have the right word to use. But when I'm trying to like pinpoint something I'm trying to like release or let go of, it's very specific in the wording. And I feel like I sit around playing Pictionary with myself like half the time, because when I, ask my question, like, what is this word I'm trying to identify? I'll start getting pictures in my mind. Now, when I was a teenager and this would happen, I thought I was just getting distracted. Like something was just kind of like drawing my attention and distracting me. I didn't realize that was my answer coming in pictorial form. And so how it goes for me is that I'll get a picture and I'll be like, I'll identify the word or the emotion that I'm feeling about that picture. And then it's like, yes, that, but not quite that word. And I'll be like, okay, well, what's the word? And then I'll get another picture that's like, I have a very similar word, like a word that in the dictionary means essentially the same thing, but I have a little bit of a different emotional reaction to it. So I'll name that word. It's like, yes, but not that one either. And sometimes it's really long. I'm like, just give me the one that it means. Stop like giving me all of these other words that aren't that word. Just give me the one that is the word that I am looking for to be able to release. But the power in this is that by the time, sometimes it's a while, by the time I get to the word that needs to be let go of or released and like the name of what I am working on, I now have a very well-rounded profile of what it is and what it isn't. And why is it that specific word versus all these other words that I named, and their slight differences and variations for me emotionally and experientially, like what I've experienced with those words and why they have that meaning for me. And so by the time I get to the actual word that I am trying to let go of, I'm very, very solid on its meaning for me and the depth that it is for me. So that way, when I release it and I let it go, it's very profoundly impactful because it's specifically naming the thing that I am working on versus like a vague kind of plays into that definition. It's a lot more powerful to move the energy and to shift the situation. So how this plays into your blocks is that when you're blocked, you can take the subject matter that you're blocked on, like if it's a specific thing that you're trying to buy or do, like a trip or something like that, you can go and ask yourself and your higher source power and your spirit guides, wherever you turn for help, you can sit and meditate and figure out what certain words mean to you. Like if you're, for example, the example of trip, if you're going on a trip, what does a trip mean to you? When you close your eyes and you picture going on a trip, a vacation, or depending on what type of trip it is, what emotions come to mind? And then when you have those emotions, you can sometimes trace back even the experience that generated those emotions. Like maybe you have very fond emotions for trips because you went on them a lot as a family, but going on them might feel sad because maybe some of those family members aren't in your life like you would like them to be. Or maybe you went on a trip and you had a really bad experience and now you're like, have some sort of fear block there because you're afraid to repeat that negative experience. So and that's really simplified, usually blocks and different things, they can be a lot deeper and a lot more poignant. I'm just trying to give you a little bit of an idea what I'm talking about here. So when you have something that you're blocked on, ask yourself, what does that word, that thing, that event mean to me personally? What experiences have I had and why do I feel the way I feel about it? And if you have a little bit of a hard time getting in touch with yourself, sometimes you can also use what you've seen in other people. Like how have other people reacted to that idea, that word, that path? And is it a pretty common reaction that you've seen and your reaction is very different from that? That will help you to see maybe where you have a hang up or maybe where you have had an experience that isn't something somebody else has had, and that's where your block is. I have had many times in my life where like I'll state something as a fact and like, oh yeah, everybody feels this way, everybody does that, and people are like, no, actually we don't. Like I've never felt that way or thought that way about that thing, and I'm like, oh, well, very interesting. I do. Okay, now I know there's something there to look at. Why I'm reacting or feeling that way to that thing that somebody else feels is very benign or normal. Even like one time I had a friend that was talking to me about cinnamon, and they were like, that tingly feeling you get on your tongue when you eat cinnamon? And I was like, no. They're like, it kind of like tickles and itches a little bit and it's kind of tingly. And I was like, no, I do not have that reaction to cinnamon. Actually, I have that to mangoes because I'm allergic to them, but I don't have that with cinnamon. And this person was very taken back and they're like, oh my gosh, I thought that was everyone's experience with cinnamon. And I was like, no, you might actually have an allergy to that. And so it's just very interesting that we tend to ascribe and presume that what we experience is the common, is the normal. And so that's why we end up with blocks and blind spots a lot of times, because we just presume that what we've experienced is what's so in general, and that maybe we don't see that there is either wounding behind it or some ascribed meaning to it that is something you can shift. So why the heck is any of this helpful with blocks? Well, once we understand deeply what a word means to us, that then gives us the power to shift the meaning and change the definition in our own personal internal dictionary. So when we don't know that we have a specific meaning assigned to words or events in our life, that word or event kind of has power over us because we just presume that's how it is and that is our reality. But once we can see that it is a story that we have assigned to it, or a definition we have assigned to it, we can change and rewrite that story and rewrite that definition, which gives it a different meaning for us. And then our reality presents differently, because then we can change the script of our life and let go of and release the meanings and definitions that don't serve us. So there's my tip on how words can help you identify your block and resolve them. I hope you found that helpful. If you did, go ahead and give it a like for me and subscribe to my channel, because every week I'm going to be putting out content like this to help people like you have light, love, and joy in your journey. Take care.